So I thought the idea of training camps was to make things easier for you when you got to the games, not harder. Welcome back to the channel. So today I'll be talking about Danielle Brandon and really how now 2 years in a row, the games look like they're going to be just as much a emotional and mental challenge for her as they will a physical. And in both cases, well, it's linked to her connection with Underdog Athletics. And if you're just here because you're a DB fan, well, please check out some of my other videos. If you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more videos. So probably we all know at this point that Danielle Brandon and Underdog Athletics have parted ways. And I'm going to get to that a little bit later in the video. So before we get into what's happening now, let's just go back a year and see what was the situation with Underdog Athletics last year. Well, they had these three incredible women, Carrie Pierce, Bethany Shadburn, and Danielle Brandon. And they put on an incredible show at semi-finals. People were talking about them as the athletes to watch at the CrossFit Games. It was sort of which of these three is going to take a podium spot, but definitely one of them's going to get it. There was a lot of hype around this team of women. However, upon their arrival at the CrossFit Games, both Carrie and Bethany tested positive for COVID-19 and had to withdraw from the CrossFit Games, but not Brandon. However, despite having a negative test, her games experience was still very different and very difficult because she was kept apart from the other athletes. Even though she had tested negative, she was repeatedly tested just in case. So constantly the anxiety of, was this going to be her last event? At the end of events, there were no hugs, no high fives for Brandon. However, despite these hardships and difficulties, she was still able to finish 11th overall, even getting an event win in event 8 on the handstand walk. Now, obviously, this was not by design. They happened to get it. She was associated with them through the training camp, and that's why this happened. But surely this wasn't the games experience she'd been looking for that year. So once it was behind her, no doubt this year she was looking to a much more enjoyable games season, once again with Underdog Athletics. And it did look like it got off to a great start. She was having a great season. We saw her teaming up with Brad, for example, also Monster Hydro, and then winning the MAC and punching her ticket to the CrossFit Games once again. And then, when we were about a month out from the games starting, well, we hear that Danielle Brandon and Underdog Athletics have parted ways. So we had this article from the Morning Chalk Up with the official statements from both sides. However, this wasn't as breaking news for many of us. It didn't come as a surprise. We'd sort of seen the signs a few days earlier. Now, on the surface, when you read the article and you look at the statements, we see that Justin Coulter's statement was, after our most recent discussion, Underdog Athletics and Danielle Brandon have mutually decided to part ways. We wish her all the best at the 2022 Games and in all her future endeavours. And then through Cooper Marsh, Brandon's manager, very similar statement. Danielle Brandon and Underdog Athletics have mutually decided to part ways. She's a massive fan of the Cutler family and the growth they've helped her achieve over the last 2+ years. As an athlete and as a human being, she wishes them well in future endeavours. And we could end it there. It seems like it's a mutual decision. They're wishing each other well. So what's the problem? Well, when I read this, immediately my mind flashed to the kind of press releases we see whenever Disney and a director fall out and have a parting of ways. You know, creative differences, we wish them all the best in future projects. But if you've ever followed the behind the scenes of what's gone on the film sets, you know there's always been some hidden drama there, or sometimes not even that hidden. And in this particular case, while the statements themselves seem somewhat unemotional, emotional is very much the word that I've been seeing linked to what is going on. But before I go any further, I just want to say, of course, I don't know what happened between Danielle and Justin or someone else at the Underdogs Athletics team. And we may never know, and we don't necessarily have a right to know. There is the difference between an athlete's profile and maybe what we feel we deserve to know and their personal life that if they choose to keep personal, we should respect. So I'm not going to dig too deep into this. I just want to scratch the surface enough so we could see maybe what knock-on effect it could have for her at the CrossFit Games this year. And I know there's been a lot of speculation, so I will address maybe one of the things that people have been talking about as well. So the first thing I did was reach out to both parties just to see if there was anything they wanted to add to what had been published by Morning Chalk Up already. And to his credit, Justin got back to me and basically said he couldn't really add much to what had already been said, only that this was the right decision for Underdogs and their future. And he sort of apologized that he couldn't add any more. And he followed up by saying the reason was because it is a emotional and sensitive topic for both themselves and Brandon, and they wanted to respect that. Emotional and sensitive is probably not the words we want to hear thrown around when we're talking about somebody who's just about to go off and compete in the biggest event of the year. Now, I said this wasn't a surprise for many people, and that's because a few days before it was released, Danielle Brandon had been on the Savan podcast together with Jason Hopper and Matthew Souza, and notice what happens when Savan brings up Justin's name.
Danielle, Justin, what's he like? Kotler in your relationship. So he said in one of the videos I saw that the Buttery Bros made with you, he said he's basically saying how much better you were than he's like so fired up about you, and he's just loving on you so hard. He's just telling you how great you are. You can tell he's like a proud father. Like, you know what I mean? He's like, he lived vicariously through the performance you just had. What is that? You're still training there, right? You're not training at Underdogs Athletics anymore?
Yeah, I am.
It's a flexible, really. It's binary fluid, gender. It's gender fluid.
Yep.
Wow.
Let me tell y'all why.
Break it down.
I'm good. I can't say that.
Oh, cat's on the back now.
So there's some drama. Now's not a good time for there to be drama, right?
I would say so.
So she doesn't give away much, does she? But clearly there is drama, and this is not the right time for there to be drama. But don't worry, Savan pushes a little bit further.
Look at Tom's uncomfortable too. Look at, move on. I know. I was going to but until she said no one wants to hear the Danielle story. I really do want to hear it. Would you share? You want me to kick Jason off so we can be alone with just me, you, and Susan?
No, it's okay. This doesn't need to be shared.
Let me just push just a tiny more. Is it have anything to do with why Bethany's not there also?
Possibly.
Oh, okay. Because I mentioned Bethany to DeLugos, and he said she wasn't there, and then Alex Gazan mentioned something about Bethany not being there, and so.
Oh, yeah. I mean, her boyfriend lives in LA, and she wants to go be with him, and like that was kind of known. So it was she wants to live by her now fiance.
So she doesn't have a story of. She doesn't have a story of drama. Like her story's not as dramatic as your story.
Maybe probably not as dramatic, no, but still maybe a story there.
Right. Okay. Let's let this sit for a second.
So this is interesting because we know that Bethany's been injured. She's gone away to be with her fiance, but Danielle is sort of hinting that maybe there's a story there as well, yet her story is more dramatic. So clearly there is some drama. Now, I know a lot of people have been speculating that this is because of HWPO, because she went off and was training with Matt, and, it's all coincided at the same time. But in that regard, I would just like to take you back 10 months earlier when she was once again on the Savan podcast together with Jason Hopper.
You're kind of... Is there anyone else doing this with you? Like, is there another dude or a chick who's doing this with you?
I may go to Vermont sometimes.
Serious?
Yeah.
Have you talked to your coach about it?
No. Oh. But Justin is still my coach. Justin will still be my coach. But I think it would be silly of me to not take the opportunity to go be under the eye of the best in the world.
Oh, shit. And are both of you aware? Is this the first time that are both of you aware that...
I knew that Jason was doing this. Jason didn't know that I was.
True or false, Jason?
I didn't know you were doing what?
Going to be in the room next door when you're in Vermont. Like she's going to hear you snoring at night when you guys are at the Fraser HWPO camp.
She says that. So is she doing HWPO? Because it sounds like Jason is your coach. Or who? Jason?
Yeah. Justin. Yeah, Justin's still my coach.
So you won't be doing it.
I will be. Not HWPO necessarily.
Okay, so
Just good opportunity to go train around you guys, train with you guys.
oh yeah,
Doesn't matter what
yeah, I
programming
knew
it
that.
is.
Yeah,
Doesn't
I
matter
knew
what
that.
programming it is.
Yeah, I knew that.
So her going and training together with Matt and his athletes is something that had been on the cards for about 10 months. Now, admittedly, she says at this time Justin didn't know, but she does say he would still be her coach. So could it be that they were unable to resolve that situation over 10 months? Maybe. But I feel if this is where we're focusing our attention, we're probably looking in the wrong direction. Now, I've always had some doubts about training camps and whether or not they are effective because you are training together with your competition. And I know what you're thinking. Jason, who are you? You're not a games level athlete. You don't know what's going through the mind of these elite level athletes. And you're absolutely right. But let's just go and check in for a second with Pat Vellner.
We have a long show ahead of us, or else I'd keep you on all night. We have to just we're gonna announce the women's winner for the CrossFit Games tonight.
Okay. Well, if you're on the topic of talking about camps, while I exit
Please,
here,
please.
you should talk about how some of the training camps are currently exploding. And there's some major drama and they're unraveling. And perhaps the training camp scene is not where you want to be.
Are you referring to what's happening over at the Underdogs Athletics?
Yes, of course.
Anywhere else too? Are you referring about Harry and being up from comp train up to the
HWPO?
Yeah.
Well, you've got to love Vellner just stirring up all the drama in this situation. But the point is that he sees there is drama. So if there is this general perception of drama, that cannot be a good thing leading into the games. Now, of course, it was not Underdog Athletics' fault last year that 2 of their athletes got COVID and the knock-on effect that had for Brandon. And also this year, it's not the training methodology of Underdogs that we are questioning. You know, they've still got a wonderful stable of athletes that are doing incredibly well. So I'm not here to criticize them. I just think it's a shame that, again, because of her relationship with them, once again, Danielle is going into the games with some added obstacles that she needs to overcome. But that being said, she is by far one of the most popular athletes in the CrossFit scene at the moment. So maybe all of this drama is just adding to the legend of DB. So of course, I wish Danielle all the best at this year's CrossFit Games. We're also going to see Underdogs represented. We have athletes like Alex Gazan that will be there. So I'm also hoping that they have a great showing at the Games as well. And yes, the CrossFit Games are fast upon us, so maybe now's the time in the comments to let me know who you think are going to be the podium athletes for the women this year. Will DB make it? How's Gazan going to do? So comment below. And if you're here for the first time, don't forget to check out some of the other videos. Subscribe to the channel if you like what I'm doing. If you're not here for the first time, well, thank you for coming back. I really appreciate that. And hopefully I'll see you all in a future video.